Okay, let's get started. This is the boring stuff for the first day of class, but because you guys are all new students, I'm going to go through everything for you. If you are a returning student, then you're going to be bored, but you might find something at least interesting. Who knows? So what you're looking at is the URL for where you're going to find all of the assignments for the course. And let's see if I can make this one a little bit bigger. It's you don't actually have to put the ITU part on the end of it. It's just www.bhecker.com. If you go to this website, you're going to see, and I've recently populated it, you're going to see Fall 2012. Click on Fall 2012, and you're going to see this class, which meets on Wednesdays at 10 a.m. And it's every Wednesday until Christmas time, 15 weeks. And if you click on 910 here, SEN 910, HTML CSS Programming, you'll see all of the materials for the course. You'll also see some interesting lectures. These are live class recordings. This is like a year ago, actually. A little bit more than a year ago, I see, but no, it looks like from last summer. Not all of them are here, but most of them are. I think at that point is when I first started recording, actually. And what I do is I'm recording right now, and what I'm doing is putting this up on YouTube. So if you miss a class meeting, you can go see what you missed. Or let's say you saw an example, you thought it was really cool, and you wanted to like see it again. You can see it again. It's not a substitution, however, for showing up to class, which you guys know because you're here. This is how you're going to pass the class, by showing up and by doing the work that's needed for the class. Those people who aren't here, well, they know it's the first day of class, so they're going to try and get out of it. But some of them will end up failing because they just won't show for some strange reason. And, you know, whatever happens to be their reason is their reason. But anyway, long story short, if you do happen to miss a class meeting, there is the information here that you can catch up. You are allowed to miss 30%. So it's only a mandatory 70% attendance. And I have an attendance roster here, and when I get done today, I'm gonna wait because people are gonna show up late. I'm gonna don't leave immediately. Stick around because I'll have you sign the attendance roster, and that way I know who showed up today. So. And today's going to be really easy. We're just going to go over the syllabus, the assignments for the course, what you're going to learn here. It's kind of a fun class, in my opinion. It's not like a heavy-duty programming course. It's HTML and CSS. So we're going to go over this syllabus in a few minutes, but this is where you're going to find the syllabus later on when you want to go ahead and download it. We have a midterm exam. It's going to be take-home. Here it is, a CSL essay. I'll talk about that in a few minutes. 5 little assignments, and then here are all the lectures as well, all the PowerPoints. And I think I'll start in with lecture 1 next week, because I understand people are still registering this week, which is kind of odd. So I don't want them to miss anything. So this is, for brand new people, this is the important website. And I've already downloaded, so I'm going to go over the syllabus for the course, so you know what you're getting into. And also as a side note, in a couple weeks on the 15th, because you guys are taking HTML and CSS, you might be interested in, I'm teaching a workshop. It's free. It's open to the public as well. Here on Saturday the 15th of September, which is going to be for iPhone, and, well actually it's mobile device development, so it's iPhone, Android, everybody, for HTML developers, or web developers. So taking your HTML skills, JavaScript, jQuery, all that stuff, and then making apps out of it. So you might be interested if you have an interest in HTML or CSS. It's optional, you don't have to show up to it, but if you have an interest, it's free, so it's not a bad idea. And you don't have to stay for the whole day either. You can just it's a all-day workshop, but you can just show up for a couple hours if you wanted to as well, just to check it out. Because it's a way of translating the skills into something that's very marketable these days. So if you're looking for a job or something in that area. Okay, so what are you looking for here? You're in 910 HTML and CSS Programming. It sounds like a pretty basic, and I'm going to assume some of you, or maybe have any of you had any HTML or CSS Programming experience so far? Well, then you're in the right class. Some of you may be business students transferring into computer science, maybe engineering management students. Okay, well then you found the right course. if you've already done a lot of web programming, you're not in the right course. Because you're going to be bored silly unless you just want an easy A. And if you do want that, then do your own work and you'll get an easy A. So what are we going to learn here? The course is to examine how to create websites using HTML code. Don't need any software for the course. You'll be using text editors, and you're going to write HTML code by hand. So we're not using a what you see, what you get kind of drag and drop text editor. So some people have experience with that. That's great, but now you're going to learn how to really do it, which is nice because then you can embed HTML, CSS code inside of applications and programs and stuff, and without having to rely upon a GUI tool. And it's more powerful as well that way. So we're also going to look at so HTML is hypertext markup language. It's used to mark up the presentation of text for the web. So we create web documents in HTML and we stick them out there on the internet and they do something, but they're all static. They don't do very much at all. So you usually have to use a scripting language. We're actually going to look at, not in here, but we're actually going to look at JavaScript as a scripting language as well, because then it gives the web page more functionality. And it mixes in with the HTML code, so it's a nice complement to the HTML CSS. The CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. Well, that's the styling. What is the styling? Well, that's how many indentation or spaces for a tab. What size font for large, for small. What color is cyan? What's the RGB color for? It's the definitions of all the styling that you're using. So web artists love CSS because it gives more consistency. All the tabs are the same number of spaces. Every time you say blue, it's really blue. It's the same blue. It's the font's the same. So it's really kind of coming up with a template or a style sheet, sort of a format as well, of what it is you're presenting with the HTML text. So HTML, CSS kind of work together in terms of that concept, and then scripting goes in the background to make it more dynamic. We will do a little bit of scripting in the course, not a heavy programming course. You don't have to have any programming skills for this course. If you have some design skills, that might help you, actually. Any digital arts students in here? No, this is perfect for digital arts students, actually, because those are the ones that really get into HTML and CSS, because what are you looking at? Styling, the fonts, the whole look and feel of the interface. So we'll be looking at some interface design techniques as well in this class. So it's kind of a combination of CSS, HTML, JavaScript. I do have a mini lecture on PHP and some server-side scripting languages to introduce you to that. Not a heavy focus on it, but a little orientation to it. And then concept of styling, what makes a good UI design in terms of the concept as well. So, of course, it's going to look at how to create web pages using HTML, style sheets, basic website development tools, and website design we'll be studying, as well as creation of several HTML, CSS website projects. So the assignments for the course are based upon web projects that you're going to be doing. And usually I have a student or two say, oh, do you need a website? Don't actually need a website. It's nice to load stuff out there and make it public for the world to see it. And in the second or third lecture, I'm going to give you some free sites that you can sign up for. So you can get a free website. What's the deal with that? Well, they put ads on there for you. Pop-ups and stuff, whatever. But it's still free. You can still put your stuff out there. If you have a free if you have your own website. Most of you actually have it, but you haven't probably used it. If you have an ISP, service account, not normally with the wireless access, but with traditional landline access, they give you web space. Actually, you might even have it with your regular old wireless account. But it depends on what kind of plan you're on and what kind of space you actually might have. But long story short, that's not a requirement. You don't actually have to buy anything for this course. The tools that you'll be using are going to be Notepad or a text editor and your regular old free web browser, which is kind of interesting. We'll see the differences between the web browsers in this class as well. Internet Explorer has a slightly different kind of way to it, document object model to it, or DOM. than Firefox or Mozilla, some of the other Chrome, the Google version of it. So we'll kind of look at the differences between these websites as well, and that does play a part in how your CSS kind of looks, how your HTML looks, but mostly plays a part in add-ons. We'll take a look at add-ons as well, so you'll see how Flash works in there, how multimedia, audio, video files. We'll also look at HTML5 in this course. So the course is HTML. We're going to start out with regular old HTML, then move on to HTML5, which nothing more than a few added multimedia components and slightly more features to it. It's the same HTML though. We'll also look at standardization in terms of the HTML5, and we'll also look at the W3Cs, and we'll basically kind of cover everything possible in terms of the concept within the next 15 weeks. Not in a lot of detail, we'll just hit a lot of subjects. We're going to hit HTML and CSS in a ton of detail, but all those other little concepts we're going to hit as we go through. But not a full, it would take me like 3 semesters to teach you all of that stuff, probably. Well, not really. I don't know. Anyway, so description of this class, learning objectives. Upon completion of this course, you'll be able to create web pages using HTML code. Well, that's a good one. You'll also be able to use CSS to help in the web page development, understand the basic website development technologies, hopefully. We're also going to look at File Transfer Protocol, FTP, and Telnet technologies. In one lecture, probably about 3 weeks from now, when I look at the free accounts, all these free accounts that you'll be able to sign up for, and I have to basically go out and update my list because some of them have gone, and some of them, there's some new ones out there. But they all have FTP tools and Telnet tools, so you can log into the account and upload your files and set file properties and directories and stuff. So we'll also look at that as well, because it makes no sense to learn how to write the stuff if you can't put it out there. But as I was saying before, you don't have to. It's not a requirement of the course. When you submit assignments, you'll just be zipping up CSS files and HTML files, and you'll be submitting those files as your assignment. So if you want, you can put it all on a website and give me the URL. That works too. But it's totally up to you. You don't have to. We'll also look at utilizing web development tools for best practices for user interfaces and event-driven interface designs as well. It's all event-driven behavior, if you think about it, which leads into the concept of using HTML forms, which, if we don't have anything like a JavaScript or something like that, when you hit the submit button, nothing much is going to happen, really. So that's why we're going to look at, not a lot, but it's not a full JavaScript course, but we'll look at JavaScript concepts so you can integrate some functionality to go along with the event-driven behavior that we're going to be looking at in terms of the mock-up, screen mock-up. So there's no required textbook for this course. If I were to require a book, I'd probably pick one on HTML5, only because that's the newest stuff out there. I don't know if you can really find a book on this anymore. Usually you find books on website development, UI design. In fact, UI design is probably, if you want to buy a book, you don't have to buy a book for this course, but if you want to buy a book, UI design or HTML5 would be my recommendations, but I don't really know of any good books out there, which is why you don't have to buy a book for this course. I have tons of lecture notes for you, and if you show up to class or you listen to the videos if you miss a class, you'll get all the content you need, so you don't have to worry about that. So this is what students are primarily interested in on the first day of class, is the grading. Everybody wants to know about the grading. Am I going to be able to pass this class? How am I going to be able to pass this class? Well, let me tell you from previous semesters in terms of ITU, the way you pass a class is to do your own work, actually, and to show up to class. Although you'll notice there's nothing in here in the grade about attendance. Although I don't grade on attendance, attendance is required. 70% attendance is required, which means you can miss 30%. The next 15 weeks, you're going to have, you're going to stub your toe or chip your tooth or, I don't know, not feel well, have allergies or something. You're going to skip a couple class meetings. It's okay, you can skip 30%, which is not a majority. It's 30%. So divide out, take 30% of 15 weeks and you know how many you can miss and still be eligible for a grade in the course. I do have a roster here, and at the end of my first lecture here, I have to actually, and I'm going to, so don't leave, because I need to make sure you guys here, if you're not on the roster yet, don't worry about it. We can add your name to the bottom of the roster. Some people are still adding to class, but I still want to keep track of who's showing up, and I have to handle that. I can't leave it out there for you guys to do, because we have, in previous terms at ITU, we've had some students, you know, like one student signed 12 names, 15 names on the roster, you know, 20 names. You know, I get the roster back and I go, wow, there was 112 people in this class. Wow, where did they all sit? When they were all like invisible sitting in the corner. But that's just one component of the grading. So you guys are off on the right track because you're here today, which is great. And I will try to make the class as pleasant as possible and hopefully as entertaining as possible. So, and I never go the entire class time either. So when you show up, you don't have to worry about being here till 12:45. Today we're going to end up super early because it's orientation day. But normally I want to say I'll be done by 12. I can't imagine going past 2 hours. So from 10 to 12-ish, you know. Sometimes I'll stay longer, sometimes I'll go shorter. The class is supposed to go from 10 to 12:45. Not happening because around 12 my stomach's going to start growling and I'm going to be hungry. And okay, let's go. Lunchtime, you know. So, that's how it's going to work. So, we have a final exam. It's an in-class final exam. All of your classes will require you to take one exam that's going to be in class. So this is what I'm telling you is supposed to be the standard for all classes at ITU. And if it's not, it will be by the end of the term because we're striving for a lot more consistency now at ITU. So, but you guys are all new students, so you don't have to, you know, you have no idea what I'm talking about, hopefully. But in the past, there's been some teachers that had like 12 exams. And one has just one exam, you know, so everyone's supposed to have one in-class exam. I only have one, and I have one take-home midterm. Some teachers will have two. They'll put the midterm and the final exam in class. Up to the teacher. The take-home will be the midterm will be a take-home. The final will be in class, and will be during the 15th week, or the end of the term. I don't know when that's going to be yet. I'll know halfway through the course. The midterm exam is actually available for you already out here. It's the take-home midterm. I'll be going over it as we go through the midterm of the course. It's way too early on the first day of class to go over the midterm. That's just way too overkill. But I'll be going over it. So that's going to be a take-home. It's about halfway through. Count for 25% of your grade. Final exam is 25% of your grade. So half your grade's in exams. The other half is you have 25% on what I call a CSLO. The CSLO is kind of interesting. It's an essay. So this is a graduate level course. And one of the things, you guys are all international students, so one of the things we're trying to do at ITU is make sure you have good English writing skills. You all know English, but sometimes the language is a little different in terms of your writing of it, especially when you go from English from over there to English from over here. Actually, you just go anywhere in the United States, you'll find different states. They have different dialects of English, you know. They write differently. So it's just another way of getting you to kind of practice communication skills, especially at a graduate level. So I'll take a quick look here. And you know what? Actually, I'll preview here. Let me start with the midterm first, actually. I'm just going to preview. I'm not going to go over it. Let's see. Just to give you an idea, because some students like to assess the first day of class and then go, I don't like this class. You know, take another class then. You know, gives you an idea what you're getting into. So here's the midterm for this course. It didn't open up automatically like I thought it would. The midterm for the course is going to be a project. So it's not like a regurgitation where you have to answer a bunch of questions or anything. You're going to be given a lot of details in terms of what it is you have to build, and you're going to complete the following exercise in the form of an HTML page using CSS. So it's a direct application of what you'll be learning in the course. And you're putting together a website, or a web page, I should say, that's following these specifications. So it's kind of, can you take some information, understand what the question is, as an example, include the following doc type so that the page will be validated. Well, you don't know what that is yet because I haven't gone over that stuff yet, but, and then here's the doc type to put in. So you'll have to apply, essentially, all of the things that we'll be going through. So this is a hands-on kind of practical thing. And the reason why I wanted to show you that is because I wanted to contrast that with what I'm calling the CSLO essay. And the CSLO essay, by contrast, is not a practical hands-on kind of thing. Instead, let me just save it here actually to the desktop. It's a writing assignment. And in this writing assignment, here it is, you're going to pick a topic. Let's see, make this a little bit bigger. And you're going to write a 2 to 3 page double-spaced essay on the topic. And the topic is going to be one that you're selecting. You don't have to write in all of these topics. These are just some sample topics. You're going to select one of these and you're going to write an essay on it. But you're also going to provide reference citations. So you're going to go out to the internet or you go out to a library and you're actually going to reference it correctly and put it in a writing format like the APA or the MLA or whatever it is you're familiar with. I'm not going to require a writing format or standard, although I probably should. I'll leave it up to you guys. Most students actually kind of do a combination of a lot of things that they've done in the past. This is not an English writing course, however. If you want to do that, we do offer courses in APA, and we offer also courses in writing if you really want to get into writing. But this is just to give you some practice in terms of finding some research on topics and incorporating the research into your writing and writing a professional graduate level kind of paper that's 2 to 3 pages is not much. Double space, that's like 1.5 pages. Yeah, divided by 2 if it's double space. So it's for 1 to 1.5 pages, which is not that much writing, but a single space that is. But you do need to reference your citations, and you can't cut and paste it from the internet. In fact, it's right here. Plagiarism. If your paper ends up being plagiarized or not your own original work, you'll receive 0 credit on the assignment. This is your opportunity to practice your professional academic papers in English. And let me tell you, last semester we had a good percentage of students who loved Wikipedia. Of all places. Why put? Because we put it through turnitin.com, it's going to come out with Wikipedia this, Wikipedia that, Wikipedia that. And I was like, whoa! I didn't think Wikipedia was that popular. And you know what? Don't use Wikipedia for anything, actually. It's not a reliable source. You know who writes on Wikipedia? Bored people who think they're like experts on stuff that have no idea what they're talking about. And some of them are high school kids. Like my nephew loved to put medical. He's not a doctor. He's 14. When he was 14 years old, he loved to put like medical cures and things on how to get wine out of carpet, stuff like that. I don't know why he liked that stuff. Well, maybe he will be a doctor one of these days, or a chemist, one or the other. But oh yeah, his big thing was the Diet. This was actually true. Diet Coke. If you put Diet Coke on your windshield, it degreases it, actually cleans it. So if you're on a road trip, you put Diet Coke on the windshield. He wrote that on Wikipedia, actually. When you read that, you're listening to a 14-year-old. Advice from a 14-year-old. So I seriously wouldn't trust anything on Wikipedia. Cross-reference it with something else, actually, because you don't know. People, well, I think he's going to be a journalist, actually. I don't know. So, he loves to write. But you know what? That's what the Internet's all about. People love blogs, they like... If you ever, there's a lot of people out there that just love to write about themselves on the internet, and there's people like to write about different subjects. So, enough said on that one. That's the CSLO essay. The other big part of the class is you have 5 web programming projects, 5 of them, but they're only worth 5 points each, or 25% of the class. So this is most of the work in the class is worth the lowest amount of points in the class. Why is that? Well, that's because I want you to be able to practice. You can't learn how to how to write HTML code and CSS code by listening to me talk. So this is really the reading / the week-to-week work that you'll be doing. So there's 5 of them, which means every 3 weeks, you should be doing something. which, take 5 times 3 is 15. So 2 to 3 weeks, every couple weeks you should be working on one of these little projects. The projects, and I'll show you the schedule in a few minutes, go along with the pace of the course. So as I go over topics, you'll have a project. And some of the projects, the first one is super easy. There's a couple of them that require some JavaScript stuff in there. Not too bad, though. They're not very bad at all. The way that you do well in the course is to write your own CSLO essay, to write your own projects, and then come in, take the final exam, write your own midterm, turn in your own work. That's how you do well in the course, actually. Because then you'll get, like, if you just turn it in, you'll get like 100% for it, or you'll get close. I mean, I'm not going to nitpick the grading. We have had some serious issues with people copying work at this school, so, and I'm telling you on the first day only because you guys are brand new. You haven't been tainted yet. Don't fall into that trap, because if you fall into that trap, what ends up happening is you're not going to pass any of the classes that you're going to take. And it's not just me. In fact, I'm not the one doing this. It's the university that's enforcing this. And the university will also enforce your attendance. So if you have some friends or if you have some people that don't show up, they're going to be in super duper trouble if they're still at the school, because they may have already been failed out from previous term. But long story short, we're going for WASC accreditation, and we have to abide by these standards, and we have to enforce rules, and we have to, if we want to be just like San Jose State or Cal State East Bay, and it's good for you guys too, because your degree is going to be worth more, which means we have to enforce attendance for international students. We have to enforce academic integrity and academic honesty. So, lucky for you, this class is pretty easy. You should be able to, if you have to cheat in this class, you should not be a college student. Anyway, so the homework, long story short, is how you're going to learn most of the material. And it's 5 assignments. I'll take a look at those assignments in a few minutes, but they're not going to make any sense to you until you actually go through the course. So the final exam is going to be the week before the final. A week before the final exam is given, I'm going to have a review session. I do this for all my classes, actually, where I go through and I tell you what's going to be on the final exam. And the final exam has to be taken during the final exam week, and it has to be taken with this class. So, which is no biggie, because if you show up for the class, you're already used to showing at this time. So. We don't actually have an official final exam schedule, but that's something we might actually come up with in the near future at ITU. Other schools have like final exam week, and they switch the schedule around so you don't know when your classes are. Right now we're still doing it. It's the same class time, the same class day. It's just during the last week of class. That's when your final exam is going to take place. I've already talked about academic dishonesty, so I don't really have to talk about it anymore. Hopefully you guys get the impression, but you guys are brand new. Most of you are brand new. So, grading formula. There's no such thing as an A+. I've never given out an A+. There's no such thing as an A+ at this school. A 4.0 is a 4.0. That's an A, 4.0. However, there is an A-, there's a B+, there's a B, there's a B-. Most students will get an A if you do your own work. If you turn in your own stuff, if you show up for class. If you don't show up for class at all, out of my control, and as I mentioned before, 70% attendance required, out of my control, you just won't get a grade. In fact, it won't be me, it will be the registrar's office that will be issuing you that F. We also have plagiarism checks throughout the system, so it won't be me either. It'll be the plagiarism finder that'll say, hey, cheated, and you'll automatically get an F. So that's why I'm just trying to warn you ahead of time. I feel bad. Students come to me and they go, oh, I got an F. I can't only have access to the system. I can't change your grade even if I wanted to. It's out of my control. So it's what we're supposed to be doing. Yeah. So anyway, all right. So anyway, that's enough on the academic side. I didn't want to harp on it all day today, but I feel like I should warn you. Yeah, it's important. So. Because it is going to end up happening, especially if you're brand new to ITU. I'm sure you've heard the stories. There's assignment banks. People circulate everything. They send everything in. Well, some of these students came from Tri-Valley. Some of these students came from scam universities. And it's great. You can do that over at illegitimate scam university. You just can't do that at a real university, because what ends up happening is you're going to get caught for it. So there's a lot of misinformation, I think. There's a lot of people that are under the impression that you can do anything you want here. It's like, no! Alright, so back to the schedule. Alright, so if we go through the course, this is really technically the first week of class. Each week is by, each Wednesday is by a week. We only meet once a week on Wednesdays at 10. And we do meet promptly at 10. Because if I have to get here at 10 o'clock in the morning, I'm starting a class that early too. Alright, so we have week number 2, which is going to be next Wednesday. Because we're just doing the course overview today. Because we're missing half the class anyway. We're going to go over an overview of HTML, introduce XHTML as well as HTML and HTML5. I'll talk about the differences between all of these things. And create an HTML document. We're probably going to end up doing this in class using Notepad. So if you really want to get a lot, or if you have a MacBook, in fact I'm going to be doing it on a MacBook using a text editor. So if you want to prepare for next week, and you want to think, well, what do I do from now? Because we don't have a textbook, there's no reading to do or anything. Get your computer set up. So if you're on a MacBook, I see a couple of them around here actually. There's a nice little editor called Text Wrangler. You don't want to use text edit. It's not a text editor. Here's the problem with HTML. If you put it in a Word document, you put it in a formatted document, it doesn't show up correctly because you have other things in there. So if I type something in here, I put something in this document as an example, that's what I get. It's pure text. There's no formatting to it. If I'm on a MacBook and I use text edit, then what's going to end up happening is I've got other formatting stuff in there. So Text Wrangler for those people who are on a MacBook. If you're on a Windows machine, use Notepad. Don't use WordPad. Don't use Microsoft Word. You're using Notepad. Text Wrangler is a free program that just go and just do what I just did a few minutes ago. Just type in Text Wrangler, bare bones software, Text Wrangler. So it's one of the best ones I've come up with in terms of experimenting with different ones. And download it, it's free. You can go search through the website. It's from Bare Bones Software. There's also Little Brothers BB Edit. I like Text Wrangler better because you can open up multiple documents and keep track of it. The earlier version of this was one document at a time, kind of like Notepad, where it's one document in one window at a time. With Text Wrangler, you can actually open up multiple windows and switch between them, and they're all integrated together, which is kind of nice actually, because when you're looking at a CSS document, which is going to be written in text editor as well, you can look at the tags and then you can apply the tags to the HTML. You can just flip back and forth. What was that name of that tag? You can go back and forth, so it's kind of nice instead of like the Notepad thing. I don't think they make Text Wrangler, however. I don't think they make it for the Windows machine. I don't know if they make it for Windows. So that's something, actually here, let's just do this for Windows. Oh, and maybe they do make it for Windows. Alternatives, otherwise Notepad works as well. This is the logo here actually, so it looks like it does come in a Windows format. So Windows Text Editor, it looks like it might actually be available. However, I'd probably just go with Notepad. So you don't have to use any web development tools like Microsoft Publisher. Don't use that for this course. Or Microsoft anything, actually. Don't use that for this course. You're not going to use any type of PDF editor, nothing. So your basic text editor is what you're going to essentially want to have installed. Outside of that, if you want to investigate your ISP, see if you actually already have web space but never have used it before. Some people who have Comcast, home service, maybe at your apartment or your home you have like landline DSL, you probably have web space and you already have availability to it. If you don't have it, don't worry about it. Next couple weeks I'll be going through some free websites. But the reason why I say you probably, if you have web space, which you probably already do, then get familiar with it. So if you have Comcast or SBC GlobalNet, they actually have a web interface. So you have to call them up on the phone and you have to find out, well, how do I get to there? And then you'll be given like a control panel on the web, you know, with FTP tools and telnet tools and stuff. My advice, sounds like an alarm, is explore your options between now and next week. See what you have. That way you know what direction and what you should pay attention to in terms of what you might have to get. And then at that point, review the materials, review the syllabus, review the, just go over through bhacker.com, get familiar with the format, and this week is pretty easy. There's nothing really much you have to do actually before next week. So, as we go through the course, so next week I'll be looking at the overview, which is nice because if you bring your computer, then you can type the statements and I'll show you how to load them in the web browser. It's easy, you load it up in the web browser, and we'll talk about web browsers and the differences between them and stuff, and you'll actually can kind of sort of see it happen, which is nice. And then I'm going to have tables put in here next week, so you'll have a spot to put your computer. But you can use a Windows or Mac computer, doesn't really matter what you have, or Linux if you have a Linux box. And you'll see in the schedule here the assignments, but there's no due dates. So I've spaced them out so they're like every couple weeks. So you can see that today there's nothing, next week there's nothing. So week 3 is when you probably should be doing assignment number 1. And week 5 is when you should be working on assignment number 2. And what we're going to be doing is going through these topics, and the topics are going to relate to the assignments. And all of the assignments, and you can see at the end through the 15-week, the CSLO essay, the final exam, is that going to be at the end. The midterm is going to be around halfway in the middle of the course. You probably want to do the midterm. And over here on bhacker.com, you can actually find and look at the different assignments in here. I'm actually not going to go over the assignments today because that's a little overkill. But you can do that. Take a look at the assignments. The assignments, some of them are going to have, well, here's an example here. Okay, I will look at them. Wasn't going to look at them. I'm just going to briefly show you as an example. They're all different. Here's assignment number 1. Creating a web page. Can't read it, but there's a bunch of details on here on creating a web page. And then assignment number 2. Oops, let's see. Assignment number 2 is going to be on JavaScript programming, but it's not bad, and I'll give you the formulas. And in fact, in this particular case here, let me make this a little bit bigger so you can see it. It's primarily, in each one of the assignments, you'll have to use a CSS page. It has to be written in HTML. It has to be written in a text editor. So that's the same for all of the assignments. This particular one, you'll see, oh, it says, put a prompt up. I'll give you the code. It's not a JavaScript programming class. However, you'll be able to use a scripting language with HTML, which is the point. So knowing where to put the tags for the use of the language and how to integrate simple. And then what will end up happening is you'll start learning it. And you'll know a little bit of JavaScript by the time you get out of this class. But I will be providing you with the functionality in the lectures and stuff, so you'll know how to do this. It's not really hard actually, but spacing this out, creating a table out of this, spacing out the output, that's the challenge, which I'm not going to give you, which is the HTML part of it and the CSS, the style of it. So that was the second one. The third one, and then these assignments are only worth 5 points each. Actually, let me just download the rest of them here as I'm on here. I guess I am going to briefly go over them. So, the third one is taking that one that you did, number 2, and expanding it out and adding some more features to it to make it more GUI, adding some more GUI components to it, putting some phrases in here. There's 2 parts to it. The second part is a kind of a more graphical version of your first part. And the first part is talk like a parrot. So you're going to take and create, basically using multiple HTML components, input boxes. And this is more of a form kind of thing where someone types something in one text box, you press a button, it takes it and translates and puts it into the second text box. Very easy functionality, but it's the look and the feel and the form that you're creating with the HTML and the CSS code. So they're all GUI intensive. With minimal kind of programming involved in it. The fourth one is CSS, HTML, and JavaScript is another kind of one where you're doing an active password checker, and you're working. This one you're just working with multiple pages and multiple components versus a single page. And I believe the fifth one is going to be where did the fifth one? Here it is. The fifth one is create your own website, where you're going to take all the pieces of all the information I've given you for like the last 15 weeks or so, because this is the last assignment, and you're going to put it together, and you're going to basically have at least 5 different pages from the website navigation, and you're going to have some menus, and you're going to have put some images, some scripts and stuff in there, some audio, some video, whatever it is that you want to put in there. But you'll definitely have enough tools to put this together, and it's written from scratch using a text editor. So it's not written with one of those what you see, what you get editors. This is why, especially for the fifth one, which is kind of the capstone kind of assignment for the course, that's kind of like why you want to investigate, see what kind of web space you have already, between now and next week or so, and then be able to take and either decide if you're going to use that web space, or don't go out and sign up for web space, because I have some free stuff that I'm going to tell you about. But at least you know whether or not you need any of the free stuff. If you already have it, you should use what you have. If you don't have it, then go for the free stuff. Don't go for the free stuff if you already have one, because the free stuff is full of ads, and has limitations, and it's there's a reason why it's free. It's shared, other people. You have the long URL to it, Plus, it's not very permanent. Those companies come and go a lot. So, all right. So let's see. Those were the 5 assignments I said I wasn't going to go through, but I went through anyway. So you can kind of see they're only worth 5 points each. They're spaced out throughout the course. They're on different topics. You find all of for those people who came in late, all of the lecture material is out here as well. I'm actually going to let you go. Well, this is not too bad. 10:44. So I was only going to go for, let's say, an hour today, because some people are still registering. Don't leave, however, because I need to do the attendance part of it. So, do we have any questions? And if you did come in a little bit late, you're brand new to ITU, which I don't know. I can go over some of the stuff you may have missed. I'm also going to be hanging out for a couple hours, so I don't have anything else better to do today. But we have some other people who are registering for the course right now, so next week is going to be the first real lecture. So, questions? Nope. Okay, then I'm going to end the introductory here. And this is how I capture the video, by the way. And then I put this on YouTube, and in the class here, probably on the top, I'll put the current lectures. So if you miss a class, you know what happened. So I'm going to